Thank you so much, G, for coming on. I know you're so busy with the tour right now. You're right in the middle of everything, right?
Yeah, thank you so much, Ken, for having me on your podcast. It's great to return and to talk to you after our live event in Los Angeles. I had such a great time speaking with you and hanging out with you in LA. It was incredible. Thank you for having me on the show.
No, thank you for asking me to host it and moderate the questions. I had such a great time, and that particular library with that room has been so special because I grew up in LA and I attended a few talks, and I think perhaps even seeing Ocean Vuong in that room at one point. So seeing you up there and being with you was a very special moment for me.
Yeah, I mean, LA Public Library, I mean, this is like LA is such an iconic city for me, and the library is so important. And I was really happy to be able to present my work there. Together with you and with Ngọc and with Jason and Nguyen and Nguyen, so many Vietnamese artists. It was a team, a dream team that we had that day, right?
Indeed, indeed. And we can all catch it, I think, on the LA Central Library's website with the Allowed series. Is that if people wanted to look it up, it's Allowed, Aloud. The whole hour and a half or 2 hours is on video, and it's streaming live on their website, I believe.
Yeah, and we have music, we have poetry, we have humor.
A
We
lot
had
of
a lot
fun.
of audience questions as well. And the library and Big Ngọc made a beautiful introduction. And Việt Nguyen, who won the Pulitzer Prize with the sympathizer, made a surprise guest appearance.
Mhm.
So it was amazing.
My impressions of after reading Dust Child, which is your new book, After the Mountains Sing, was it's a beautiful debut into the themes of humanity as it all relates to all sides of the North, the South of Vietnam, and many unknown details to the diaspora because we are not often given a glimpse into what goes on in Vietnam in the early days after 1975. Dust Child is a love letter, a continued love letter to the Vietnamese all over the world. That's how I feel about your new book. How did you begin to conceive of this story?
I think the seed of the story started a long time ago when I was growing up in Bạc Liêu. Some children in my neighborhood were mixed race children, and some of them didn't have a chance to go to university. Some didn't have parents, so their circumstances were really difficult. And I always wondered about them because I saw the discrimination that they face, and I was hoping that life would treat them better. So in 2015, I read an article on the BBC, and and the article is about this American veteran who was going back to Vietnam in the year 2015 with an album of old photos, looking for in the album he had many photos of him and his ex-Vietnamese girlfriend who was pregnant, and he was looking for her, walking the street of Saigon looking for her, asking the people whom he met, asking them, do you know this woman, because I want to find her to be able to locate my child with her. So the story was just so incredible that I reached out to a group of veterans, and interviewed them, and the ones who were looking for their family members, and their stories was just so heartbreaking. And I interviewed them, and I wrote about them on a newspaper of Vietnam. I wrote a long essay about them, with their pictures and also with the letters. I asked one of them to write the letter to the woman whom he once walked away from, and I asked him, please tell her why you did that and why you have been, spending your life your life's saving, going back to Vietnam to look for her. And he wrote a very moving letter, which I translated and had it published on the national newspaper of Vietnam. And then I found one of the women in the article. And so throughout my real life, work, I also connected several people, and their stories were just so heartbreaking because the couple whom I helped unite, they haven't been able to find their daughter yet. And this is the reality for a lot of Amerasians out there, tens of thousands of them. And many of their family members are desperately trying to find each other. And, and it's, there are some, stories with happy ending, like recently I have been translating for an Amerasian in Vietnam who was abandoned at birth and who found her father, just last year or just this year, earlier this year. So I've been, no, it was last year, sorry. Because of my traveling, I get mixed up with a timeline. But I started to translate for them, since last year. And, and for their reunions on video calls and for their real meetings in Vietnam, he went back to Vietnam to meet her. And now she could immigrate to the US and join him. So this is a story of, a happy story because like the father is very welcoming and his family is also very loving. And, and this Amerasian woman, like she grew up not having her parents, and she looked for them for so many years, and she's illiterate, and faced a lot of challenges, for so many years. So I'm really happy for her, and I just hope that there would be more cases like that. But unfortunately, there are very few.
With technology today, with the Facebook and all the social media, if there was a war like Vietnam happening right now in Vietnam, we wouldn't have the situation because everybody would kind of remain connected, right? What do you think of that statement?
I think, wars, you cannot say how the situation would be if a war happens, because like if there's a real war there, people wouldn't be able to have the power or internet, so people may also get separated and difficult to find each other because they may not have access to all of these technologies. Or if you you also need to have all the electronics and power internet to be able to find each other. I have a student from Afghanistan, and who actually has been separated from her family for so many years, and in modern day, and she hasn't been able to find her family. So when a war happens, you cannot say what can be within our control. So I also know that when people find each other, there are so many things that happen that leads to even more heartbreaking situations than they had expected to. So sometimes, when you find family members, you find things that you did not expect. So I know a mixed race person, an Amerasian, who has been thinking for years about finding her family members, and she decided not to until today. And there, I got to know an Amerasian man recently, and he found his mom in Vietnam, and he found a terrible, terrible situation that happened to his mom. So you can imagine. So I mean, with my real life research with Amerasians and their family members, I found a lot of incredible stories, incredible reunions, coincidences and lucky situations, but also a lot of heartbreaking situations as well. So I documented them in this novel, Dust Child. And this is about real life situation, during our talk at LA Public Library. Trần Văn Khước was there, right? He's an American filmmaker and who managed to find his parents after 48 years. And growing up, so Kirk is the award-winning director of the documentary Intersections, which won Best Inspirational Award at the Cannes World Film Festival. And he came to, he read Dust Child and he told me, he told me that the novel connected with him in such a profound way because there were situations in it because it explained to him some of the things that had happened to his life. And and Kirk grew up believing that he was an orphan. He was told that his parents had died. And when he did the DNA test to, just because people said, because he spent a lot of time in the sun, so he's quite brown. So people thought he was from Hawaii or from the Philippines. So he wanted to find out where he was from. And then suddenly he found his parents. And he has been adopted by by an American family. And then he found out that his mom was living just around an hour away from his adopted parents' home. And she had been looking for him for 48 years,
It's insane. It's insane the amount of people that are in this historical period that are living in pain and unknowing, for the last 48 years. And there's still tens of thousands of Amerasians that are living both abroad and in Vietnam that are wondering where their lineage come from.
Yeah, exactly. And the search is ongoing. And I think it's also very painful for the parents of Amerasians, especially, the mothers who had to give their children up due to their circumstances. I talked to women who had to work in bars that served American soldiers. And, in Hollywood movies, normally you see them being represented as victims, as those, who need to be rescued by men. And actually, the women I interviewed, they are just incredible, very strong, resilient women, and they had to make these really hard decisions. And some of them have been, searching for their children, hoping that they be able to find them. And quite a few of them haven't. And the women in Vietnam whom I interviewed, many of them also didn't know about the existence of DNA tests, for example, or how they could get access to that. So one of the things I've been doing through this book tour is, do awareness raising and also, fundraise to be able to help buy DNA kits and make them available for Vietnamese mothers who are looking for their kids, and also to make the DNA test kits available for veterans who might have had children in Vietnam. And like the Amerasian whom I mentioned before, who found her father and united with him recently, the father had no idea he had fathered a child in Vietnam. And this is the situation of many American veterans. They went to Vietnam as young boys. Many of them were traumatized.
Right.
So they have tried to, forget about Vietnam, and not thinking that they might have had a child. So yeah, so we want to also to raise awareness about this issue for American veterans, and also we want to make DNA test kits available for veterans who might want to do a DNA test. So during my book tour, I have been able to meet, and I've been working as a volunteer for organizations such as Operation Reunite, run by Trista Goldberg, who has been using DNA technology to help find family members. I've been working with Anh Nhạc Tùng or Jimmy Miller, with his nonprofit called American Without Border. So we do all of us volunteer, and we help support American families who are in need of support for employment or educational opportunities, and we also support people to find each other, and interpret for reunions. And I also work with Trần Văn Kirk on the intersection documentary, because we want to document real life experience, real life stories of Amerasians through this documentary.
The women that you portray in the book, I think for the first time we are seeing the humanity of these women instead of some caricature in Hollywood films that depict working bar women. Was that something deliberate that you designed specifically to show how these women, how strong and fierce and alive they are versus, what we see on screen traditionally through old Hollywood films?
Actually, before I wrote this book, I looked at the representation of different characters in the book that I wanted to write about, and I wanted to write back to the misrepresentation of Vietnamese people, of Amerasians, of veterans, and of those who have been traumatized and affected by wars and armed conflicts. But I think my purpose was not to kind of this is a piece of decolonize, like this book is my one of the things I do to decolonize literature about Vietnam. But I think I had to write it that way because I grew up in Vietnam. I know Vietnamese women. I'm a Vietnamese woman, and I interviewed so many women who worked in bars, who had to sacrifice their youth to be able to save family. And also they had to save themselves because it was during the war, the circumstances were horrible. And I have so much admiration for these women. And as for example, Quỳnh in my book, she's quite fierceless. I have two sister characters in the novel. And I wanted to write about sisterhood because, I don't have a sister. And sometimes when something is missing in your life, you make it up in fiction. So I wanted to write about sisterhood. So I had a lot of fun writing about Quỳnh and Chang. And, they are different people. One is very romantic and and the other one is like she's quite fierce and I have met very fierce Vietnamese women in my life.
Yes.
And like Nguyen, she's a business person and it was all business for her. And I think I have met many Vietnamese people like that in my life, many Vietnamese women who are very successful in business and who are very practical. And Quỳnh is a practical, and she has a lot of secrets. And I want to talk about secrets as well. And this is what many Amerasians have told me after reading this book, that, you know, the secretive part, you know, that they have had to hide from each other, or I mean, the secret part, you know, I mean, people have to keep secrets in with the because they need to protect their family in some situation. So it's very hard. It's very hard, and because, you know, the types of decisions people have had to make to be able to survive, to be able to keep their families together, or to be able to protect their family, you know, the decisions are just so incredible.
You know, I can imagine you are telling a story. There's no way that a limited amount of pages can tell a comprehensive story of everybody who are, you know, is Amerasian, the experience of Amerations. Do you sort of have to calculate what you're saying and what angle you take to kind of make sure that you cover everything? Or is there just a straight line and you just write straight from your heart to do the best that you can to
Mm.
tell a few stories? Like, how does that work when there's a big community of Amerasians all over the world? How do you know if you've kind of like stepped on somebody's toes here, or you've done a great job here but left out other things here? How do you know how to
Mm.
balance all that in a novel?
Actually, you know, I wrote this novel as part of my PhD project. So luckily I had a lot of guidance, for example, in terms of the ethics of research, you know. I
Mm.
had to design questions. For example, if I interview Amerasians, I had to be careful to not to get them re-traumatized, you know, and show respect for them, and you know,
Can
so
you
so
can
I
you
mean,
I'm
I
sorry.
also
Can you
looked into.
I'm so sorry. Can you give me an example of a question that doesn't re-traumatize?
Mm. So, for example, so you know, the research process for this book, you know, I started with have you know, like drafting the project document, about the purpose, whom I would interview, and the type of questions that I would ask, and you know, whom could be the people I could approach for these type of questions. So, for example, in some situations, I decided not to interview the person because it could be too traumatic. For example, the American character in my book, you know, I mean, I wanted to include the voice of an American man because many American men have written in the viewpoint of Vietnamese women. So I wanted to do the same to them, you know, to see how it feels. And actually, it feels empowering. It was, but I couldn't have done that without my years, you know, working with American veterans. And I was introduced to this veteran who was a former helicopter pilot in Vietnam. And you know, my character is a former helicopter pilot whose helicopter was shot down, and this is the reason that he has, you know, very bad PTSD. So when I was introduced to this pilot, former pilot, I thought, oh, I met the right person because his helicopter was also shot down in Vietnam, and he barely escaped death. So, but I was thinking about it for weeks, and I decided not to interview him because it could be too traumatic for him if I, you know,
Right.
ask him to describe how it was, and because, you know, he has very bad PTSD, and you know, so I decided not to interview him but rely on secondary information. And you know, I think because, you know, research can be damaging to people if you're not careful. And you know, so for all the people that whom I interviewed, I had the consent form. I had, you know, like I explained to them what I would use with the information, like I would document it in a novel, and I would not reveal their identity because some of these women, these people had to keep several secrets, with
Right.
them. And so one of the things I decided to do is to protect their identity. And that's why, I don't acknowledge the names of the people whom I have interviewed for the book. And so I mean, so I collected so much information over the years, because I drafted this over 7 years. So on top of interviewing real life people and doing, kind of work to help reconnect people, I also watch a lot of documentaries, like oral stories and films, and I have read a lot of memoirs, fiction and nonfiction books. So I had a lot of information. So like you said, I mean, the question is, how do you honor all of these experiences? How do you make it? Because my position as a writer is to present a story with multiple perspectives. I wanted it to be, to honor those experiences in a fair way. So in there were times that I felt really overwhelmed, that I nearly had a crisis. Then I thought I couldn't do this project because, to write in the voices of the people whose experiences are so different from mine, are so challenging. But, because one of the reasons I wanted and I needed to write this novel is that there is no novel yet written about Amerasians in Vietnam as well as their parents' experiences in a comprehensive way. So I looked at novels in both Vietnamese and English, and I haven't been able to find such a novel yet. So I decided to embark on this project, and I also wanted to explore, about the experiences of people who were involved in these issues. So, it's not just about Amerasians and their family members, but I brought into the picture, viewpoints of veterans who fought during different times, on different sides of the war. And also I brought into this novel also, the current situation in Vietnam. There are issues that I talk about, for example, corruption, injustices, or the need of people to go overseas to have jobs, the lack of job opportunities for certain groups of people. So I want to talk about the social issues that people in Vietnam face as well, and also the pathway to healing of different groups of people, how they find healing. I talk about food, music, the ways that people can see each other, can help each other. So I mean, this book really like brings together a lot of things I want to do as my from my viewpoint as someone who want to make social impact. And also I wanted to create this book in my position as an artist. So at one point I told myself, okay, I'm going to grow a tree from the garden of my research. I can't bring into the tree everything I have gathered, but everything I have gathered, on which I can build this tree. It will, my understanding of the situation, the materials, I need to go beyond that and make up, a fictional world. And using my creative technique, then I would build the trunk and the branches and
Wow.
for the tree. And I think it's, once you have finished writing the book, you do it as best as you can. And then, I think it's up to the readers to receive it. And I mean, of course, I had sensitivity readers. I have been friends, with Amerasians who helped me read the book as well. So at one point, remember, I reached out to you and I asked whether you knew people who could help read the book, because I have been working with Amerasians in Vietnam for a while, but they are illiterate, So Yeah, so luckily one of your friends, helped send, uh, the manuscript to one of her friends, so who read it and who, didn't find any issue with it. And I also asked Anh Nhật Tùng or Jimmy Miller, the head of Amerasians Without Border, and to read it. And he took he read it and he messaged me. He said, like the research that you did was just incredible. This sounds so real. Yeah, and I mean, although even though this is fiction, I wanted the historical facts to be accurate. For example, the consequences of the implementation of the Amerasian Homecoming Act. What had happened, the implementation of that act led to the buying, selling of Amerasians. Yeah. And then, like the many layers of trauma that Amerasians have had to experience. And I also wanted to bring into this story, the humanity of Amerasians. They are not victims. Nguyễn Phong in my novel, he's half black and he lives in Vietnam and he experiences racism, but he's a survivor. He's a carpenter, a loving father, a musician. So I do want to talk about the many qualities, the many things that Amerasians can contribute to our community. And I think I want to write this book with my wish that their trauma and also their their accomplishment is recognized.
I want to switch gears a little bit and kind of compare your journey on the book tours and the people that have come out for The Mountains Sing, in contrast with Dust Child. Has there been a difference in the reception, in the people, in the sort of overall kind of a reaction between the two books?
I think, but when The Mountain Sing was published, it was launched into the pandemic. So my whole book tour was canceled. So, I was devastated. I did not unpack my suitcase for months because we worked on the book tour and we had planned for so many events. My team and I worked on it for nearly a year. So when it was canceled, I was devastated. But luckily, with the help of some kind people, I started to have virtual conversations and with bookshops, with libraries, with book clubs. But it was not, even though it was fantastic, but there is nothing better than meeting people in real life, and hugging them and really sharing, being in a room with people and feeling the energy. Yeah. And it was incredible. I mean, for me, the book tour has been just so incredible, and you have witnessed it during two of my events. The people actually, quite a few people who came have read The Mountain Sing before, so they felt connected with me, and they want to support my work. But I also have new readers, and I also have, readers who are Amerasians or children. I have had quite a few readers who are children of Amerasians, and they had the book, they read the book, and they reach out to me, and they share with me their parents' stories, them, especially the mother stories, and it has been such an incredible experience. So I mean, I have been really thankful for the reception I have received, and I think the best part of this is to be able, to connect with people from around the world, and also to be able to do something meaningful, like what I said. We have been raising awareness about the issues that people have to look for each other, and the impact of wars and conflict, and also raise funds and to help real life people. because this book is about real life.
You know, when I think about your schedule, just in my brain, when I kind of like imagine what your life is like, and I analyze the last few months, I feel like your writing time is like 10% of the overall journey of what you do because there's so much connecting, there's so much reaching out and talking to people and really touching people. How do you manage to keep going consistently with your health and your strength and all the energy? You seem to have like an unlimited. We text each other in like the middle of the night, early in the morning. It doesn't matter, in the afternoon here in LA. You're around the clock person and you're traveling constantly over multi-continent. How do you do it? How do you have so much energy to do all this?
Oh, Ken, you are so nice. Thank you for the compliment. I have the energy because I love what I do. I
Mm.
don't consider this as work. I consider this as joy, like when I looked, because when I started this book tour, we had in mind, my publisher and I only had a few events in mind. But then people started reaching out to me, you know, and then we started adding. And in the end, when I look at the schedule, I started to say no. But I couldn't add because there were still more requests. And they were like bookstores or libraries in different cities who wrote to me, we would love to bring you here. But I look at my schedule and then I said I couldn't fit anymore. So can you believe, during my book tour, sometimes I had two events in one day. And
Wow.
it was very often that I flew to one city and then had in the morning and had the event the night in the night, and then the next morning fly and then have an event again. It was really hectic, but it was a lot of fun. In the beginning, I thought, oh, how am I going to survive this? Because like I had 19 cities included in the US, I think. It was crazy and it was so many events. But I decided I would be high by, one of, I would be Ba Chưng. By Chưng, going, I would be a warrior, fighting my war to get Vietnamese literature heard, to get Vietnamese voices heard. And I thought, when people, go on this mission, they couldn't have comfortable bed. They would have be sleeping on the field, and here I was having a comfortable hotel and
Yeah.
had friends who helped me. I had so many people who helped me everywhere. And my incredible blessing is that I got to know people through the mountain thing. And then they offered to host me, drive me around, be friends with me,
Yeah.
took care of me. Uh, I couldn't have done this without the help of so many people. And I see a lot of joy in everything, that so much joy in connecting with people and in learning from them. Yeah.
And
So
during this time, do you have to take a break from writing, or are you writing at least an hour a day on these trips?
no, I take a break from writing so that I can enjoy this fully, and
Okay.
also like you said, to take care of my health, because every day I still exercise. So I
Mhm.
run in the morning, or I do or I walk or do an exercise class in my room. Yeah, and I walk a lot, so I have to stay healthy. And I take my vitamin supplements and try to eat healthy. And so when my friends ask me, what can I bring you? I say, bring me fruit, because yeah. So yeah, but it has been a lot of fun. So yeah, so I decided to take a break but I mean, I have had to do a lot of writing still, because to answer media interviews, quite a few of them are written interviews. So the book tour it's long because it covers so many countries, you know. So I started in the US, Canada, and it went to the UK. And now I'm in Austria, and I'm about to go to New Zealand and Australia and Indonesia. And then in September I will, because the book is being translated into 9 languages. So I will go to Italy, to Sweden, to Norway, and to the UK again. So, and to Bangkok, I've been invited to the Bangkok International Festival. So, you know, like, yeah, but I think the difficult thing is to have time to write. So I look forward to being home in July. So in July and August, I'll be able to work on my book. But in June, I will be in Vietnam. I will do field research for the third book. So the third book, I have been writing it, and I have 50 pages already. And now I need to supplement it with a lot more research.
You know, I always listen to our dear friend, Dr. Bao. He always says to me, I want to hear what I can't find from Google about the author. I want to hear details and facts about the way they think and the way they live and the way they breathe, things that I can't read. And so that's why half of it was about, you know, Dust Child and the Mountain Sing, and the other half I really wanted to go off track and ask you about all these other different things, because I wonder about all these facts about you and your life. And why is it, do you think, that makes you stand out? I know I've had so many authors on the podcast, but I know they haven't even done 1/10 of the traveling that you have done or been asked. And those books are great as well. The authors are awesome. But what is it, do you think, about Dust Child or you that is bringing you to so many communities and countries around the world? I would love to know what you think about you.
Oh, I can't answer that question because the question lies in the people who want to invite me.
What do you think? What do you think that they're thinking?
um, I think, I hope that they invite me because they love my writing, first of all. And I also, I think people also want to have me because I want to give, like my UK publisher, she said, I give 110%, because, in my live events, I read poetry in Vietnamese and English. I sing songs that I have composed for my readers. I do a lot of I want to entertain people
Mm.
with my live event, so we do a lot of fun things together, and I want people to have fun when they come to real life event, because people have to travel, have to brave the rain, have to brave the traffic. Sometimes they have to pay tickets, right? And you need to entertain people because their time is valuable. So I love and I respect my readers a lot. And, I'm so moved that many of them have traveled a long ways. So, some flew from different cities to see me. There were readers who like travel for 9 hours, to see me. So this is like the greatest honor. And you ask me where I get the energy from, I get the energy from the love of my readers. And, like, I mean, people gave me a lot of cards, and it's just yesterday that I started reading all of these cards, and I was crying a lot because I was thinking, what did I do to deserve all this love? And I think they love me because they have read my book and they understand me. They understand the person I am. And I think, if you read a book, you can really see the values and the beliefs of a writer, because a writer cannot hide that. You yourself as a person, you show through your work, even though it's fiction.
One thing that gravitates me to your writing is, I think human beings are very judgmental. We are very judgmental. That's just part of who we are, how we operate. Churches are set up that way. Temples are set up that way. The infrastructure of politics, everything is based on judgment and kind of sizing everybody up. But I think your novels give us a respite, gives us a breather from judgment, from being judgmental, and having sort of like this unconditional way of looking at humanity, unconditional love for our neighbors. And I think that kind of levity, that lightness allows communities to come together from all sorts of different political walks of life within the Vietnamese community. We could see glimpses of the North, the South, and regular human beings going about their business without any judgment. And I think that that's just my kind of guess on why people around the country, around the world, are just rallying towards Dust Child and the Mountain Sing, is because we get a break from being so judgmental. That's just my kind of take on why there's
Oh,
so many
wow.
people.
This is such a great compliment, and this is what I aim to achieve in my life, to being
Yes.
non-judgmental.
Yeah.
Because I think it's easy to judge people when something happens, especially something unpleasant happen. You always, I mean, we as human beings, we tend to judge it very quickly, or this is a bad person, or but I think, but if we stop and say, okay, what happened to that person to drive him or her into behaving like that? So my mission as a writer and as a person is to develop empathy, to look beyond the immediate action of the person and look at the root causes, maybe the cause of the trauma, or the cause of or the experiences of this person. So I think if our world has more empathy for each other, and the ability to kind of look into each other's circumstances, you know and recognize that we are human beings and we do make mistakes, and and to help each other, then the world would be such a much better place.
But
Yeah.
I
So
really do think the world is becoming a better place. I do. I feel that it was better today than it was 10 years ago, than it was 20 years ago. I truly feel with voices like yours in the Vietnamese community and other writers giving sort of their perspective, I feel like the world is actually becoming better places. I think it's accented by the news and all of the wars that we sort of see in the Ukraine, or it's these polarizing things to get attention. But I think overall human beings are treating each other, I feel like, with much more respect in real life. But I'm not saying that on social media, or when they're going to war with each other on in the news. But I think overall in real life, I feel people are becoming more civil, becoming more loving, less judgmental, and it's a result of like these ways of kind of introducing the thoughts of open to not judging humanity.
yeah, I do agree, and I think that I'm a very hopeful person, and I always look at things on the bright side, and I do agree with you that things are getting better in general. There are some parts that we are not doing better than before. Like, for example, we are destroying our environment. We
Right.
are sometimes we invest in economic development and sacrifices our environment, our a lot of and also causing a lot of social damage, right? In some situations. But in general, I feel like, human beings, we are treating each other better. And I can give you an example. I remember, and I mean, maybe this situation has changed you know, because of my writing. But I remember, when I first came to Orange County, um, I I met the poet Du Tử Lê, a very well-known Vietnamese poet. Um, I think I don't remember exactly where he lived, but I mean it was I think if I'm not mistaken, in the Orange County area, and I can't remember what year that was. It must have been 2000, 2016 or 2016, maybe around that time. And then he told me that the night before he had received phone calls from people who told him, don't meet with Quế Mai. She's well published in Vietnam. She must be from the communist side. But poet Du Tử Lê is incredible. He's one of my most favorite poets. And but he said he decided to meet with me because he wanted to hear about my poetry. And he's so famous and his poetry is incredible, and I wanted to get to know him more. But in that meeting he asked me to read my poetry for him, and he asked me many questions about my poetry, and he wrote this huge article after the meeting about my poetry. And and I mean, I cannot believe that I have just so after that meeting, I then had an event with Viet Thanh Nguyen in the Museum of Arts in San Jose. And I was actually very nervous because I had heard from Vietnamese writers from Vietnam that sometimes they had faced protests, and then I had dreamt the night before the event that that nobody turned up, but actually we had a full house. But okay, so I cannot believe that with that child I had an event in the heart of Orange County.
It's crowded.
We had 150 people,
It's crowded.
and people in the Vietnamese community in Orange County, donated food, products, volunteered. It was incredible for me. That was the real Tết. That was the best Tết, the best Vietnamese New Year that I experienced, because it was the Vietnamese community coming together. It was so beautiful to see, and I can't believe I had that done, in the heart of Orange County. So things have changed for the better. I mean, cô Lại Lý Hayslip, author of When Heaven and Earth Change Place, said that when her memo was launched, she also, and sometimes when she had events, she also faced a lot of, issues.
Protest,
But
yeah.
I mean, things have changed, and it's very. I mean, I think the Vietnamese community is coming together. I mean, thanks to the help of the second generation, people like you have done a great deal to bring us together, to reconcile, to foster empathy and understanding. And this type of work is so important. And I think, literature is such a great way to bring people
Yeah.
together, right? Because I mean, people can talk about a book, but actually it's about their experiences too. So it has been amazing. And the work of writers and artists, and also Vietnamese food, Vietnamese art, Vietnamese music is really bringing people together. And if we have that common love, right? If we have that common love for food, for literature, for art, for music, then we realize we're all the same.
Yeah. And beautiful men and beautiful women. Beautiful
Yeah.
Vietnamese men and women. It's just our culture is gorgeous. It's just a beautiful thing. And it is finally being recognized, I think, all over the world. And it's in our sort of DNA to keep pushing, my DNA to keep pushing it and pushing it. And I want to, I feel like we're establishing a steady rhythm, you and me, and a lot of the writers and film directors and producers that are in the space of creativity. We're creating this rhythm of, like, especially with you and I, it seems like every year you come back on twice, and there's books and there's things that we talk about. So this proliferation of our ideas and our thoughts are manifesting and amplifying waves of younger generation and people on the outside to look at the Vietnamese culture in a very different light.
Yeah, and we also fostering Vietnamese pride, you know.
Yes.
We are proud people. I mean, I think Vietnamese people are beautiful, and we should be proud of what we have achieved as a community, and we should be proud of our culture, our heritage. And I mean, and then but we also recognize the things that we, you know, that we still need to work on, you know.
Mhm.
Like for my book, I talk about the racism that still exists within our community, the trauma that we have to overcome, you know. But on the other hand, you know, we have a lot of things we should be proud about, you know. um,
Nguyen, I want to finish. Our time is kind of limited. I want to really finish on this one fun subject. This is a really fun topic that I've been really debating with friends of mine. So, as I was growing up, my mother had always said, don't wear ao dai anywhere because that's not, proper outside of funerals. Funerals, black ao dai for men. In America, in the last 20 years, people from my mother's church started to wear different patterns, men wearing ao dai. And for that older generation, she was like, only gay men do that. Only gay men would wear it to weddings, and that's one voice. That's my mother's voice. Then I started hearing other people talk about, I wore an ao dai for my death party, and I felt very proud about wearing an ao dai. And some of my contacts and friends, close friends of mine, just jokingly have accused me of being a hyper culturalist, which is I'm bringing in, and I'm going to actually do a single podcast episode to talk about this. But I wanted to get your opinion about the idea of wearing an ao dai outside of Vietnam, because it seems like traditionally, and you're from Vietnam, you grew up in Vietnam, that men don't wear ao dai outside of whatever funerals or whatever that they're supposed to. Now in America, I want to, and I have been wearing ao dais to book launches. I've been wearing to film events that are premieres. I'm wearing them everywhere because I feel like I should and I can and I will. What is your take on this new way of presenting ao dai in both men and women?
I loved it that you were outside for our event at the LA Public Library. My only regret is that we were so busy and we were having so much fun that we forgot to take a group picture with Nguyen, with Jason Nguyen, who also won outside,
Yes.
right? We don't have a group picture, and we did, but with a lot with other people, and it doesn't show our whole outfit. And
Right.
your outfit was just so beautiful, and I love outside. Actually, at my wedding, I my husband, who's a German, wore a Vietnamese outside, and it was so beautiful. And yeah, so there are Vietnamese singers, male singers who wear outside on stage. So outside, I feel is very beautiful, very unique, and it makes the you know I think it makes the occasion more lively. I don't know, more special, more beautiful if people wear outside. And I love to see men who wear outside. Actually, there in my event, in my book event at social Saigon Social in New York City, hosted by
Ellen.
the Vietnamese Boat People podcast.
Tracy.
There's a board member hosted by Tracy Nguyen, right? There's a board member who came wearing a beautiful outside. It was incredible. His outside had dragons
Mm.
on it. So I love to see more men wear áo dài. Actually, it's really special. And you know, like some days when I was on my book tour, I wasn't feeling so bad, but I wore my áo dài, and immediately I felt better. And even though I'm talking with you on Zoom today,
Wearing an áo
I'm
dài.
wearing áo dài, and you know, it's like this áo dài is so beautiful. I want to show you, and it's you know, like it's hand embroidered. This is
Wow.
embroidery, and I love this áo dài because it's you know, gifted to me by a reader who loves my poetry. And she said that, you know, during the war, when she tried to survive, it was poetry that kept her alive. So, and then she messaged me on Facebook, and she said, when you come back to Hanoi, you know, let me know. I have something for you. So I thought she had a book for me or whatever. And she took me to a tailor. She had pre-ordered this fabric, and she wanted to give it to me, and she had it tailor made for me. And I tried to pay, but she said no, no, no. And you know, it's like, it's so crazy, you know. So this is my favorite áo dài. Actually, I wear it everywhere.
That's incredible. Well, chị Quế Mai, thank you so much today. I know that you have a hectic schedule, and for you to spend time with me, I am so appreciative. Thank you so much.
I love speaking with you, Ken, and it's yeah, you are my good friend, so it's like talking with a good friend. And thank you for spending time with me. I really I celebrate you, I appreciate you, and I thank you.
Thank you, G. Thank you for listening to The Vietnamese with Kenneth Nguyen. The Vietnamese is produced by Brittany Tran. Special thanks to Jane Nguyen, Catherine Nguyen, Tina Pham, Sydney Jamie, and Christo Trin. Please find us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at The Vietnamese Podcast. You can also find us on YouTube, where you can subscribe, like, and comment. Please rate and give us a review wherever you find our podcasts.